advertisement. We brought some bow quivers, completely handmade from Brazil. So the money that we raise selling these bow quivers is going to help us now travel costs. So if you wanna one bow quiver, you have an amazing opportunity to make some nice Brazilian guys happy. Okay, my name is Alfredo Ribeiro. I am a member of the UFMG's double bass group. We are here to represent Brazil and Universidade Federal de Minas Gerais. I'd like to thank a lot TCU, Professor Dr. Lu for this amazing opportunity. Thanks the Leslie Violin for this amazing double bass for this presentation. And thanks the Minas Gerais government in Brazil that allow us to be here through the Música Minas program. This study is part of a large project by Professor Dr. Fausto Gomes in Brazil and some of his students. 4 of them are here today. They are Gustavo Neves, João Paulo Campos, Rodrigo Olivares, and me, Alfredo Ribeiro. We are going to talk a Brazilian singer, teacher, bassist, and composer, Lino José Nunes, and his manuscript from 1838, that is his Método Prático, Estudos Completos para Contrabaixo, or Practical Method, Complete Etudes for Double Bass. First, we're going to give you some historical context about the manuscript. Then we're going to talk about the performance practice that we can infer from the manuscript, such as tuning, gut string manufacturing, fingering technique, real-time transposition, and sign creating in all clefs. Then we're going to give you some analytical data about Lino's compositional style and his pedagogical approach. After that, we're going to talk about the process to make the performance edition of lessons 1 through 6. And during the presentation, we're going to play for you some excerpts and lessons 2 through 6. Some geographical movies. We are based in Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais, Brazil. Rodrigo came from Santiago and joined us to this amazing trip to TCU Bass Festival. Believe me, this is a huge trip. My back still hurts. At Lino's time, this kind of travel would not be so easy. Napoleon Bonaparte was pressing every country in Europe trying to conquer. So King John VI came from Portugal to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, with another 4,000 noblemen, and in Rio he created the Royal Chapel, a chapel with an orchestra and a choir, and in this chapel we can find an important figure, that is the mulatto Father Garcia. Father Garcia was Lino's teacher. King John also created an opera theater, the São João Royal Theater, and at that time a lot military bands and military music could be heard in Rio de Janeiro. Lino's model could easily be Bach or some of his predecessors that was trying to give different tools for their students to learn how to play different keys in their instruments. Another important name is Sigmund Neukomm, one of the best hiding students. Neukomm lived in Brazil for something around 10 years. He was an undercover spy for Napoleon, but he was an amazing musician. One example of his work is his arrangement for local instrumentation in Rio of Mozart's Requiem in 1821. Another important background in Lino's music is the amount of opera that they played in Rio at that time. One example of that is the premiere of Mozart's Don Giovanni in 1821. And finally, we know that Father Garcia has 3 sons. The older son started to study double bass with Lino and medicine at the same time. Lino actually dedicated this method for Garcia Jr. We know that Garcia Jr. Gave up study double bass to continue to work and study medicine, and that's probably why Lino left the method incomplete. Now we're going to give you some background information about double bass method. The first known double bass method was written by Michel Corrette in 1773. Corrette was a known bassist, and his method was not written only for double bass. It was written for more than one string instrument. We know that Corret was talking about a three-stringed bass, or violon, because it has frets, and it was tuned in fifths. The first known double bass method, written by a bassist, is from 1809. It was written by Wenzel House. And we have the Lino's method from 1838. What makes Lino's method the second double bass method written by a double bassist? Lino's method is divided into pieces, two parts. The first part contains some scales and exercises, and the second part is more musically interesting. I have the lessons which we did the performance editions. Now we're going to talk some performance practice at Lino's time. We learned from the method that Lino was talking about the three-stringed bass. But something that really surprises us is that when he writes a G major scale, he writes the first note as a low G and put an indication that this low G must be played as an open string. What gives us two tuning options. The first is a really three-stringed bass tuned as G, D, G, or a four-stringed bass tuned as a G, A, D, G. About fingering, we know that Lino uses only 1 and 4 finger for tones and semitones, probably with fingers 2 and 3 helping the 4th finger. This technique is called fistcuff or clamp, and we know that other double bassists use this kind of fingering technique. For example, the first part of the Bottesini's method and some works by Dragonetti. I'm going to ask Gustavo Neves to demonstrate this fingering technique playing next step from the first lesson. Gustavo. It's kind of difficult for us imagine playing double bass with only 2 fingers, right? But if we take a look at this historical Dragonetti bass and its original gut string, it's kind of easy to imagine why they need to use only 1 and 4 finger. Real-time transposition was something that musicians should do all the time, for a simple reason. Sometimes opera singers need to sing half step low or half step high, so the musicians need to do this real-time transposition very quickly. To develop this skill, Lino created some rules as cadentia formulas in all majors and minor keys. They also need to sign reading in all clefs, and to teach that, Lino gives a vertical instruction that states that the student must read this passage with a segunda clave de triple na primeira linha, or a second sopranino clef on the first line. Lino designed a harmonical path for the lessons using the circle of the fifths. So the first lesson is built in a C major, the second lesson on its minor relative, A major, and unfortunately, Lino left the method incomplete and stopped at the middle of the 7th lesson in E major. I'm going to invite Rodrigo Olivares to continue this presentation from now on and talk about the first 3 lessons.
Thank you, Alfredo. Now I'm going to present some elements we can find on 3 lessons on practical method of Lino José Nunes. The first method is used by Lino as an introduction for the method, using a few elements. The most predominant articulation is the mainly stepwise with notes tied 2 by 2. But also, Lino is using opera elements, for example, a fermato. That's why I use this element for teach the students to feel the sensation of the stage, following to the singer and the conductor. I'm going to invite Gustavo to demonstrate this excerpt. 2, Lino started using the march, the syncopation, ornamentation, and the opera cantabile. I will invite to João Paulo to demonstrate two constant elements of the lesson number 2, the march and the opera cantabile.
First the march. And they can tap.
And now, João Paulo, he will play the whole lesson number 2. The lesson number 3, Linus continues using the march and the syncopation, but also he started using other elements like the open strings, the string crossing, and the cabaletta. It's like a fast finale for finishing the aria. At the end of the lesson, we found that we call that a prototype of Brazilian syncopation. That brings a question for us. Is Lino a mulatto like many other Brazilian musicians? We're supposing that because this prototype of syncopations, it was already found in Lundu, an African musical genre. I'm going to invite to Alfredo to explain for us that's how to play this syncopation, and after that he will play the whole lesson.
First, I'd like to introduce you to Brazilian syncopation. Brazilian syncopation is a sequence of syncopations that we can find in a lot of Brazilian rhythm, like samba, bossa nova, pagode, and others. So, in these rhythms, we can find something like that. Tap, 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 So in lesson number 3, we can find a prototype of the syncopation in the last 2 measures. The passage that Lino actually wrote is something like this. Now I'm going to play the whole lesson.
Thank you, Alfredo. I will invite to João Paulo to continue this presentation.
Hi, good afternoon. I will talk about the last 3 completed lessons, lessons 4 through 6, and about the editorial process of the performance editions. In lesson 5, we have again the march, the syncopation, and the cabalete style. Here, from the opera, we have the recitative element, where Lino conducts the bass line in a polyphonic melody. So, we have a top line, more singing, and a chromatic singing bass line. After that recitative, we have the cadenza, another typical element from the opera. I would like to ask Rodrigo to demonstrate these opera elements from that passage in lesson 4. After that, Rodrigo is going to play the whole lesson 4.
Now the whole lesson.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Okay, in lesson 5, we have again the march and the open strings. Here, Lino uses the open strings to explore the reverberation of the double bass. Now I want to demonstrate. I would like to demonstrate this passage with open strings from the lesson 5. Okay, in lesson 5, we also have very unusual modulations. That's probably an Italian influence on Lino's music. It's important to remember that in Brazil, the Mozart's Requiem and Don Giovanni was important part of Lino's repertoire. And in both works, you can find amazing examples of modulations. Here, in a short span of time, Lino goes from D major to B flat major to G flat major and then back to D major. To get quickly in that modulations, Lino uses the syncopation with the tonic of the first key that becomes the third of the next one. I will demonstrate this series of modulations from the lesson 5, and after that I'm going to play the whole lesson. The whole lesson. Okay. Now the lesson 6. In lesson 6, we have the same cyclic motifs, like the march and the cabaletta, but here Lino is concentrated in the ornamentation. So we have this series of ornaments that looks like some of the most difficult symphonic repertoire from the classicism, like Mozart's symphonies. I would like to invite Gustavo to demonstrate the series of ornaments, and after that Gustavo is going to play the whole lesson.
Now the whole lesson.
Okay, about the editorial process of the performance editions, we found some wrong notes on the manuscript of the lessons. We did it looking for divergences in similar passages and also observing inconsistent symbols like this higher E with an open string circle on the top of it. We also find on the lessons some inconsistent articulations and dynamics, looking for divergences in similar passages, and also observing the lack of notation in important sections of the work. Lino doesn't include any bowing on the manuscript of the lessons, but we decided to do that on the performance editions to valorize all those rhythms and genres involved in the work. And here, finally, more examples of all those interventions that we decided to do on the performance editions of the lessons. Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of our presentation. Alfredo, have some last words to say.
I'd like to thank one more time TCU, Professor Dr. Lu. Thank Leslie Violin for this amazing double bass. Thank each one of you for your time. And if you have any question, we are ready to answer. It will not be easy to answer in English, but we will try. Thanks very much. Have a good day.